And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. We're on the road in California. We're here in San Francisco. The midterm elections are less than 3 weeks away, and several of the nation's most interesting campaigns and ballot initiatives will be decided here in the Golden State. The race for governor in California has already become the most expensive non-presidential race in American history. The billionaire Republican candidate, former eBay CEO Meg Whitman, has reportedly spent an unprecedented $140 million of her own money on the race. That's nearly 14 times as much as her challenger, Jerry Brown, has spent. Brown's a longtime California politician, former governor, and the state's current attorney general. During a debate Tuesday night, Brown criticized Whitman for proposing to eliminate the capital gains tax for the wealthy.
82% of the benefit of this tax break will go to people making $500,000 a year, and there's not one guarantee they'll spend that money in California. And Ms. Whitman, I'd like to ask you, how much money will you save if this tax breaks were in effect this year or last year?
So, you know what? I'm an investor, and investors will benefit from this, but so will job creators. And I was a job creator. And you know what? We've got to get someone in office who knows what the conditions are for small businesses to grow and thrive. My track record is creating jobs. My business is creating jobs. Your business is politics. You've been doing this for 40 years.
Tuesday night's debate focused largely on how to deal with California's economic crisis. The official unemployment rate in the state is at 12.5%, and the state faces a severe budget crisis. Meanwhile, in the Senate race in California, former Hewlett-Packard CEO Carly Fiorina is challenging three-term Democratic incumbent Barbara Boxer. California voters will also decide a number of ballot initiatives on election night on issues ranging from the legalization of marijuana to the overturning of California Global Warming Solutions Act. We'll look at all these issues in the coming hour. For an overview, we begin with Tim Redmond. He's the executive editor of the San Francisco Bay Guardian, a weekly newspaper here in San Francisco. Tim, welcome to Democracy Now!
Thanks. I'm happy to be here, Amy.
Well, for people not only all over the country, but even in California right now, just lay out, let's start with the senatorial race.
Well, the senatorial race and the governor's race have a couple things in common. Both of them involve Republican candidates who have basically no background in politics, whose background is in business and who are quite wealthy. In the Senate race, Carly Fiorina, who is the former CEO of Hewlett-Packard, where she actually, on a business level, is widely considered to be a failure. She left with a lot of money. She's challenging Barbara Boxer. Now, Barbara Boxer is a long-time California politician, and she is criticizing Boxer in about what you would expect at a time like this. She's calling her an incumbent who has been too liberal, who's been in office too long, who is a career politician. All of these themes that you see playing out around the country are playing out here in California. The interesting thing is that the race is very close. And although Boxer is one of the more progressive members of Congress and is very vulnerable to these attacks on incumbents, attacks on the Obama administration, this whole anti-incumbent fervor, Barbara Boxer is a very savvy, smart campaigner. She has been written off many times before and has always bounced back and survived. I mean, from her first race in 1982, when no one expected her to win and get elected to Congress, she has always managed to pull it off. And it looks like right now she probably will pull it off, depending, as always in California, with who shows up to vote. That's always the trick, and it's going to be a major question, because what is on the ballot that's going to draw progressives and the Obama base to come out and vote? That's the big question in everybody's mind, and nobody is really sure what's going to get those voters out.
It's interesting that in both these races, in the Senate race and the governor's race, you have two former CEOs, Carly Fiorina, Hewlett-Packard, Meg Whitman, eBay.
Yeah, and you know, with Meg
and they're taking on veteran politicians.
And they're taking on veteran politicians. And both of them are making the case that, again, we're hearing around the country, that government has failed, that anyone who has been in government for a long time is a failure, and that we need more private sector experience in the public sector. Now, from my long experience in covering politics, I've been doing this for almost 30 years, I have generally found that private sector experience doesn't translate too well into the public sector. It's a different thing. It's a different kind of game. You're running California is very different from running eBay. When you're the CEO of a company, you can walk out there and say, you do this, here's what's going to happen, here's our plan, here's how it's going to work. When you're running California, you're dealing with the state Senate, with the state assembly, with 120 legislators from different parties, from different parts of the state, with different priorities. It's a huge state with 39 million people, all kinds of conflicting priorities. You can't just walk around and order people to do things. You have to work with people in, guess what, politics. And when she criticizes Jerry Brown for being a politician, well, actually, that's what Jerry Brown has been doing all his life, has been working with different types of people, trying to do what is required in a democracy to make things work.
Lay out the economic situation here in California. You know, I said that the unemployment rate is 12.5. In some communities, like the African-American community, people would celebrate, right, if it was 12.5, because in fact it is much higher. 12.5 is an average.
Yeah, in some communities, not only in African-American communities, but in some of the agricultural communities and some of the Central Valley communities, it's as high as 25 or 30%. And again, that's the official unemployment rate. You know, we all know that that doesn't count people who have just simply given up looking for work. So the economy is bleak. At the same time, and this is something that has been a little bit an issue in the governor's race, but needs to be more of an issue. At the same time, the folks at the top are doing fine. I mean, we have 16 billionaires in San Francisco, and I believe that's up from 12 the last time the Forbes 400 did their count. So the very wealthy in California have benefited tremendously from the Bush tax cuts. This is a very wealthy state. San Francisco is a very wealthy city. And this is a state where, under Arnold Schwarzenegger, we have had a series of cuts-only budgets. We have decimated the public sector by maybe $18 to $20 billion over the last 4 years. Money that used to go into healthcare, into education, into social services, and into things that actually create jobs, like infrastructure improvements. That has all been decimated. At the same time, the people at the top, the very wealthy, have been doing just fine. So, you know, in a sense, you have two Californias. You have the California of the rich, and then you have the California of the rest of us. And it's it's a huge issue. The divide between the rich and the poor in this state and in California cities is profound, is dramatic, and it's a very important issue. And you know, they got into that a little bit during the last debate when Jerry Brown tried to frame this as Meg Whitman, billionaire, she has two basic economic plans for California. One of them is to lay off 40,000 state employees, which would increase the unemployment rate. She talks about creating jobs, but that's only private sector jobs. So her platform is, let's increase the unemployment rate in California by laying off 40,000 state employees, and let's eliminate the capital gains tax. And again, the capital gains tax is a tax paid largely by wealthy people, by the investor class. She's also attacking unions and public sector employees in a way that is really profound and has become, I think, it's one of those California trends we're going to see spreading across the country. What she has basically said is the problem with California is unionized public sector workers and teachers. She actually came out and said that. She said the problem, the thing that is blocking educational reform is the California Teachers Association, and the economic problem facing the state is public employee pensions. Jerry Brown is trying to say this is about billionaires. She's saying it's about unionized public employees.
Tim Redmond, I want to play another clip from Tuesday night's gubernatorial debate in which Republican Meg Whitman and Jerry Brown argued over ways to reform the state's public pension plan.
When I left the governorship in '82, I put in the Budget Act, get a two-tier pension system as soon as possible. They ignored that. So we need a two-tier pension system. We have to bargain this collectively, and you sit down with the labor groups, as Arnold has. He's already gotten some significant concessions. There is more coming. It's all based on actuarial data. What will the stock market give us? What can we expect? And therefore, what is made up by either the employer or the employee? If the employees don't kick in, then the employer will either have to lay people off or reduce wages in order to pay it. And I think a knowledgeable governor can get the kind of pension compromises that the actuarial numbers require. And I pledge here tonight I will do precisely that.
We have got to take this on. And here's the problem with the existing pension system. If you're a rank-and-file civil servant today, you can retire at 55 years old with much of your salary and much of your health care benefits till the day you die. I bet virtually no one in the audience tonight has anywhere near that kind of deal. And that pension, that lavish pension benefit, is squeezing out other things we care about. You know, fees have gone up at the University of California by 32% and at CSU. And the reason is that the pensions have gotten so big for all the faculty and staff that it's squeezing out the students. If we do not resolve this pension issue, it is going to cause California to run out of money. Just to give you some perspective, in 2000, we spent about $300 million a year supporting the public pensions. Today, it's $3.9 billion. And new people, new employees have got to come in under a different deal, a 401k style program for rank and file. For civil servants, for those that carry guns and defend our people every single day, I think they need to stay on a defined benefit program. But the rank and file deal has got to be entirely different.
That's Meg Whitman and Jerry Brown in their last debate. Tim Redmond, executive editor of San Francisco Bay Guardian, and elaborate from the 401ks of Meg Whitman to the two-tiered pension system.
There you can see exactly what I was talking about. Meg Whitman's complaining that the unionized public sector workers are sucking all of the money out of California. Now, of course, what she doesn't say is that years ago, corporate America stopped providing defined benefit plans and basically privatized pension systems in the sense that everybody had to put their money in the stock market. 401k plan, you put your money in the stock market. Well, look how well that's worked out for all of us, okay? People who have 401k plans. That's what she wants to do. She wants to take that money and put it into 401k plans and essentially absolve the employer, that is the state of California, from being responsible for pensions. Now, this is the ongoing attack on public sector workers and on government. I mean, basically, you couldn't get a more clear choice here on that level and on that issue. Now, I have problems with Jerry Brown, as I'm sure your other guest here does, and we can talk about that. But on the issue of how we're dealing with the California economy, Meg Whitman's really a huge step back. She's talking about policies that are as regressive as the Bush administration policies, and even worse. I mean, even Bush didn't talk about entirely eliminating the capital gains tax like this.
While Jerry Brown and Meg Whitman debated Tuesday night at Dominican University in San Rafael, the Green Party candidate for governor was being arrested outside the hall. Police charged Laura Wells with trespassing after she tried to get into the debate that she was not allowed to participate in. In 2002, when Wells ran for state controller, she received more than 400,000 votes. Part of her platform this year is the establishment of a state-run bank. Well, Laura Wells joins us here in San Francisco. Laura, welcome to Democracy Now! So what happened?
Well, I was someone who thought that democracy was important in this state, had tickets and thought that I should be in the room, gave me those tickets, and me, a friend and I. And we were on the steps outside the room of the governor's debate, to which I had an invitation letter, actually, as a candidate who had won the primary for the Green Party. And suddenly,
have you been able to participate in any debate?
None.
What are the rules?
The rules are, as the letter said, congratulations on your win. The debates will be happening. Every candidate who gets a 10% result will be included. And they don't, in the surveys, LA Times, PPIC, the Public Policy Institute of California, or the field poll. And they don't tell you what the question is. Now, if the question were, do you want to debate with just the Democrats and the Republicans, which I'm beginning to call the Titanic parties? But if the answer would be a resounding no. We don't want that kind of debate here in California. But they don't tell you the question. A couple of friends of mine did tell me the question because they were surveyed. The question was, who do you prefer, Meg Whitman or Jerry Brown? They don't even say other. And then when they report the results, it's something like Meg Whitman 41, Jerry Brown 41, 18% undecided, not even other. And so, add that to the lack of coverage, which I would forego $140 million if I had the no-cost media coverage and put out our Green Party values, which the Green values are California values.
Laura Wells, why are you running for governor?
I am running because California is worth it. California is now in a situation where they call it ungovernable. And the candidates, past and current, are not talking about what the real issues are. In 1978, the voters took matters into their own hands about taxes because the governor at the time, Jerry Brown, was not taking care of business, and people were in danger of losing their homes because of rising property taxes. So they voted for Prop 13 in 1978, and it had the hidden zingers in the back, which is what a lot of propositions do. And that had the flattening